In this video, I want to quickly distinguish between three important concepts in programming: semantics, syntax, and implementation. If you think about the Python programming language as one whole and divide it into its two major parts, those categories would be its implementation and its interface. The implementation is the machinery that causes it to work under the hood, the parts of Python that you don't interact with, whereas the interface is the part of Python that you do interact with as you're writing code. You could further divide the Python interface into two categories: semantics and syntax. The word semantics means associated with meaning. So if I were to describe what I'm doing right here in this piece of code, I would say I'm making a list containing the numbers 1, 2, and 3. I'm describing the meaning of what I'm doing in plain English. Whereas the syntax is the collection of rules that convert your source code into instructions for the computer hardware. In this case, I've written an assignment statement. That's what I would call this whole line of code. It's an assignment statement. I've begun with an identifier or a name, followed by the assignment operator, the equal sign, followed by a list display. This thing I've written right here is a unit in the Python syntax called a list display, and it is enclosed by square brackets, and it contains integers, and they're delimited by commas. So that's the way that I would describe this syntactically, even though semantically I could just say I'm making a list with the numbers 1, 2, and 3. The implementation is more complex. Here I've gone to the Python GitHub, and specifically I'm looking at the implementation of lists. So here's a list that I've written in Python source code, but making that work under the hood requires a lot of code in C. This is like opening up the hood of your car. I've been scrolling for a few seconds now, and you'll notice I'm not even halfway through the list implementation. There's a lot of complexity going on under here. When talking about programming, it's often useful to speak about the things that you do semantically in plain English. Sometimes you also need to speak about it in terms of syntax, like this is an assignment statement with a list display. I'm binding this list display to this identifier, and so on. So that's it: semantics, syntax, and implementation. You'll be better off if you know what they are, and hopefully this video helped.